happy to be here. Hello, my gorgeous women of the Duality masterclass. It is Laura Patricia Martin. I have been buzzing with excitement about this masterclass and to be able to share this and speak to you and really break down these walls of thinking we need to be healed in order to make these movements in the world, in order to stand in our power. You know, I remember so well that those limiting beliefs would get in the way and thinking, okay, I need to be 100% to achieve X. I need this to achieve Y. I need the certain things to achieve this outcome. And what I want to walk through today is that's not true, right? We get to hold both, right? We get to be in duality of holding our leadership, holding our power, and the reality of being human. So as you're coming on, say hi. Let me know where you're tuning in from. How are you today? How are you feeling? How's your heart? How's your soul? How's everything in between? So that we can land here and we can be here together. I'd also love to know if this is your first masterclass with me. If it is, let me know. Or if this is a new one, that you are new to our programs and new to our things. I always love to connect with women. And I know a lot, I was actually seeing as I was scrolling through the names of this masterclass, and a lot of you are familiar. So I'm excited that you're here for the pivot and to expand on this and to do all the things. This is going to be 3 days long, right? This is going to be about an hour each session. We're going to come in, we're going to have honest conversations. Today, we're really going to be talking about this I'm not ready yet little box that we put ourselves inside of and how to overcome this. We are going to spend a good chunk of time just understanding science and soul and things of that nature. But if this ever cuts out, right, since it is on Facebook and sometimes it does, I want you to know that I will jump back into the group. Sometimes it does kick us out because we're having too much of a party. And 2, you can find any of the replays up in the guide section, or you'll be getting an email from my team after this about your membership vault, where you will find all the goodies in there in the replays, and you'll have lifetime access to this, so you can tap in there. So this is for anyone that has experienced loss or shame or heartbreak and has been through some type of trauma in their life, has been through some type of life experience, which is part of the human experience. I really don't know anyone that has been through trauma, whether they claim it or not. We've all been through some type of experience that has been trapped in our body. And now we're experiencing this fear, this unease, this entanglement of confusion that how do I lead myself through this and continue living my normal life? How do I show up in my power so I can, do X, Y, Z? And it starts to get in the way, right? And so what we're going to be talking about here is really how to overcome these things and how to break through this, because the aftermath of trauma or heartbreak or loss or addictions or any of the things that we've experienced can lead to quote unquote symptoms of self-sabotage, of limiting beliefs, of anger and bitterness and disordered relationships with our body and food, and really get in the way of us using our voice and having our confidence and being able to claim what is ours, right? This life, this leadership, this evolution that we get to create. We all have these, not we all, but most people will have this like vision that we have for our life, but oftentimes because of our trauma responses and because of our comfort zones created because of our nervous system, expanding beyond that is a little bit too stressful, stretchy. We don't really have a game plan to get around that. And so that's what we're going to be navigating here. So if you're struggling with any of this, just know that I got your back. Imagine the freedom that's going to come. Imagine the next level expansion that's going to come. And yeah, let me know that you're ready. So this is an extension of what we're going to be doing in Unbreakably Bold. I'm going to share about that at the end, so don't be surprised when I start talking about things, because that is why we do this, but you're going to walk away with so much value. If you know any, we are also going to have a giveaway. So I'm really excited. I just thought of that last night when I was sleeping. I was like, you know what? I feel like buying someone lunch and doing like some type of giveaway and some type of thing. So we're going to have a giveaway for this. Okay. And there's going to be some homework. There's going to be some sharing and some stuff and some, what I realized a lot in masterclass, at least for me, that I learn a lot, but I wasn't taking action. Especially in the beginning stages of my healing journey. I was accumulating all this stuff, but I wasn't putting it into practice. So we're going to have a nice little incentivized giveaway of I'm going to buy whoever participates the most. We're going to put your names in a draw for the 3-day thing. I'm going to pull it on the 4th day. We're going to have just like a quick little 4th day pop-up thing and put your name into it. And for that person, I'm going to buy you a cheeky lunch. Obviously, within range, please don't spend $1 million. But I'm going to buy you lunch for being an active participant and take yourself out and have just like this day with yourself to really lock in your leadership. And I'll explain more details on that when we get to the homework and get to this fun little bits, but that'll make it more interactive. Feel free to invite your friends. Feel free to share this on Instagram. I truly fucking love when I see the little things on Instagram. Please make it like a little, what is it called, where it's like a boomerang instead of a video, or instead of a photo, because sometimes I'm like doing a video and it's like, or a photo and it's like a weird face I make because I'm very expressive. But make me pretty if you're gonna do that. But I do love to see it. It does help to get this off the ground, especially in the pivot that we're in. It's that nice little boost that we can do. So if I can ask that of you, that would be fucking amazing. If you feel called, of course. So if you don't know me yet, hi. My name is Laura Patricia Martin. I'm the creator and founder of Healing the Happy, which is this brand. I'm a trauma specialist. Before this, I was IBS anxiety. It's been on this whirlwind of really understanding how our bodies work for us as opposed to against us. And this is one of the hardest things for me because all the things we've been through, and I'll be sharing more of my story so you guys can get to know me a little bit more and all that kind of stuff. But really, I just also want you to know I'm an open book. So if things come up for you, if you are having, like aha moments, or you're having a trigger moment, or you're having a question, use this space to dive into that. Okay? I am an open book to a degree, but I'm an open book. So if something ignites something in you, ask away. Like, I'm your coach for those next 3 days. If you've never had a coach, or you've never had a coach in this capacity, like, this is where you can tap into. And really just understand, like, I'm a goofball, I'm a normal human. Like, in the process of this moment, I'm navigating a breakup. And I'm navigating the life things that come with that, and the shifting and the paradigms, and, pivoting the business and having the whole humanness within that. So I am walking in that arena with you and really want to navigate that. So that's why I actually wanted to put this on, because this is something that people that lead in this field, whether it's self-development, whether it's corporate, whether it's some type of leadership role that people are in, the one thing we all understand is the most pivotal thing. You have to learn to walk with the pain. You have to learn that there is no perfect time unless you claim it as such. You have to learn to have the fear and feel it anyways. Like, I love a good cliche, and there's a reason for that. Hey, Mickey. And I love the reason, and there's a reason for that. Like, we have to be able to hold it, because life is forever going to be lifey. And if we keep waiting for the perfect time and the perfect moment and the perfect thing, we're missing out on so many things, right? So we're going to be walking and understanding how to do that, because there is gold within your grief. Like, there really truly is. And when we can start to regulate our nervous system, to hold that, to be in that mode, to stand in our power, to lead in our leadership, you become limitless. Whether it is creating a business, like, I know I speak a lot to entrepreneurs or business leaders, but it could be in your family. It can be in your friendships. It can be in your relationships, because the relationship you have with yourself is the most important one, as, again, cliche as that is. And I'm assuming this is not the first time that you've been in a workshop or you've heard someone speak about this, or any of that kind of stuff. But we continue on the journey because sometimes things don't land, right? And then one day we're like walking and you're like, I've heard this 100 freaking times. And it finally is just like, ding, like, it makes sense, right? And so I want to open up that part of our brain. I want to open up that part of the conversation of what can land differently this time and how can we use it. Like I said, we're going to be putting things into action here so that we can actually start to make momentum with this duality process. So we can get ourselves ready, so we can do the brave things, so we can step into our bold leadership, so we can start to do all the things, all the juicy things. So being here, be a participant, be open to conversation, be open to connect with people. And yeah, know that I got your back. Before we get started, I want you guys to, in the comments below, brag. Brag about something that you are so proud of yourself for. Brag about something that, I don't know, maybe it feels crunchy because we're not used to bragging, but I want to hear, like, what are you really fucking proud of yourself for today? What are you proud of yourself for? I've definitely gathered lots of info, but haven't implemented as much as I can. Hi, Brianna. Hi, Monet. Oh my god, I'm so fucking excited to see you guys here. Let's hear it. Okay, I'll go first then, I guess. I'm really proud of myself for, let's see, finally drawing the line in the sand, with my ex. Like closing that door and opening up my heart and doing these kind of things and just kind of feeling like open again. Like that is a hard thing to do in relationships and things like that, and to be able to step into that. But I feel like I am lighter today, and I am bragging the fuck out of that, because that can drag on for a while. That can drag on for, my last relationship, that was years. So I want to hear what you're bragging yourself about. Sometimes the comments are a little bit delayed on here, so I'll let it go, but I'm going to pop back in and I'm going to read them and I'm going to celebrate, and that might be part of the homework. So get on it, my friends. This is how we start to celebrate ourselves. Sometimes we're going through the muck. Sometimes your heart is breaking. Sometimes things hurt so bad and it gets clouded and it's hard to get out of bed and it's hard to do things. I get you. Can you still find the lesson? Can you still find something to brag about in those moments? Can you find the you, the heart, the soul, the thing that you're sitting there and you're like, I made my bed. When I was in the depths of my depression and like suicidal ideation and eating disorder recovery and all that kind of stuff, like I remember I couldn't think of anything, right? Like anytime I was just like, oh, what am I grateful for? I was like, the sun. And it felt so like fake because I didn't actually feel gratitude for that moment. But I remember what I started to do was do something, right? So it was like, I made my bed today. Literally, that's how I started. It was like, I made my bed today and I am so proud of myself. And it just started to build momentum from there. So pause and think, like, what is something you can be proud of? I have 2 kids that are so far not assholes. Mickey, I love that. Yes, that is something to brag about. Your kids aren't assholes. That's amazing. I'm proud of taking inspired action to the goals I have been wanting to accomplish this year. Yes, I'm proud of not stopping and continuing to show up for myself even when I don't want to. Yes! Exactly. And so I love that. Continue to hold that point in your nervous system of getting used to celebrating yourself, of bragging even when it doesn't make sense, of all these kind of narratives that we start to build up so that we can start to move forward. So let's get into duality, right? After the introductions, all the kind of things, let's step into this vortex of powerful leadership, of ownership over our emotions, our being, or everything in between. So the thing about duality, what I've learned in my life of loss and abuse and all the narratives, like that, if you think about it, I had a good post. If you haven't, over on Instagram, if you want to go check it out, it's Laura Patricia Martin. So ITS Laura Patricia Martin. I wrote a post, which was actually a journal entry the other day, of like along the lines of, no one would be mad at you if you gave up. Because of the loss, because of the heartache, because of the misfortune, because of the life experiences that have created a lifetime of experiences within this one chapter. No one in their mind would say you can't do those things, throw the tantrum, have the anger, hold the bitterness, be this shell, right? Like that is the common expectation, right? But the thing of being in those moments is life keeps going. No matter what. No matter what heartache you're going through, no matter the losses you've experienced, no matter the conflict you're walking through, like, the thing is, life will keep going. And you see this, right? Where it's like, let's take food freedom, for example, dieting and getting lost inside this and thinking our body is the definition of our worth and all that kind of stuff. looking back on that, if I look back at my years of eating disorders, all the things I missed out on, all the traveling and being present, the experiences, the celebrations, the cultural experiences, the moments, is being caught up in how my body looked or how my body would react because I had chronic health issues and different random things happening. And it can be scary, right? It can be this unknowing when we strive for certainty in our life. Like, that's the one thing we always want to know. Like, will this work out? Will this be the thing? Will this, will that? Might even be feeling that with this masterclass. But we miss out on so many things. Or dating, for example, right? We are so afraid of our heart breaking again that we kind of just don't date. Because what if it does happen again? What if they're not like my ex? What if that happens again where I get like wrapped up in things, or my codependency comes out, or my attachment issues comes out? Like, what if that's the thing? So we dive heavy into this self-development world, which I fucking love, but we also have to put it into practice. Otherwise, what are we doing? Otherwise, there could be friendships we're missing out on, the one that we're missing out on, the growth that we're missing out on. And we always have a choice in those moments. There comes a time, right? There comes a time where you either stay at the rate that you're going, you stay at the pace in all the ways, or you choose to change, and you choose to look at it, and you choose to change your perspective on it. And when we're clinging to certainty, right? Like, I can guarantee that if I don't go on dates, I won't get my heart broken. If I stay on my diet, I won't have a flare up. If I, stay in this position in my business, in this career that I actually fucking hate, like, I will, but it's predictable. I know, like, it's certain, but it also limits our growth. Right? And so let's look at the definition of duality. Let's pull up some Merriam-Webster over here. So duality, the quality or state of having two different or opposite parts or elements. Dualism. A difference between two opposite things, a division into two opposite groups. So what comes up for you when you think of duality? What comes up for you? When I start to think about duality, it's like a yin and a yang, the light and the dark. It's holding these things. And when I also think of it, it's also this like, how? Like, for certain things, that's fine. Like, I can understand like having a headache and being able to move through life. Like, that's fine. But there's other times in life where it's like loss. Like, I can think of like when I lost my mom. I don't know what to do after that. I don't know how to lead, how to show up, how to walk through things. And, it's like we're not ready for that next chapter. We're not ready for that next evolution, the next thing to come. And so it's really kind of sitting in that and being like, what to me is duality? What right now is something that I see myself walking through that is a moment of duality? And how can I see it as an invitation as opposed to a limiting belief, as opposed to this roadblock? Because there is this thing that we do. This is what's coming through. There is this thing that we do when we're going through shit. When our heart breaks, when, money troubles come up, when health issues arise, there is this thing that we then do. We give it our fucking identity. It's the only thing we think about. It's the only thing we talk about. It's the only thing we podcast and put into our nervous system and hold ourselves to and do these kind of things. It is all that we are. Like, I remember when my mom died, and I remember when I was in this abusive relationship, and these two things were, I hadn't yet dealt with the loss. So I chose a traumatized life. And we're going to talk about the nervous system and why that happens in today. But I clung to that identity. The broken one. That's why when we were coming up with this title, it was in between duality, leading with a broken heart, or duality, leading with a healing heart. Because I had yet to understand the concept of all of this. Every hiccup, every heartbreak, everything that makes me want to scream and kick and cry and all the kind of things, every single bit of it was meant for you. But because we cling to what that story was and we're scared of the next thing that comes into the future, the chapter 2, we continue that narrative within our nervous system. We continue playing the victim, even though when we're coming from a self-empowered place, even though we're listening to the podcast, we're learning about this stuff, we're educating ourselves cerebrally. But it's not being integrated into our life to live in the actual duality of it. Because fear is a funny little thing. Fear is this thing that puts our sunglasses on, keeps us shaded, keeps us protected. And if you can think of a moment that you've walked through this, right? When you can think of a moment of the experiences in your life that would and have kept you protected, what comes up for you? And is it something that you see yourself still walking with now? And kind of being a little bit afraid to show up because of it. Whether that's speaking on camera, whether that's pivoting the business you want to create, whether that's going on dates, whether that's releasing the diets and the control and the quick fixes, whether that's the drugs and the alcohol. Because all of those things are self-protection. And you guys have probably heard me quite often, if you have been in my world, is that what society calls self-sabotage, science calls self-protection, right? So we go through these things of we've experienced something somewhere in our life. And we need to protect ourselves from whatever that is. Whether it's a fear, whether it's usually fear, isn't it? We fear something else. And so we come up with these tools to protect ourselves. For me, that was anger. For me, that was drugs and alcohol. For me, that turned into food. For me, that turned into my large ego and my education boosting. But we come up with these self-protection mechanisms because that's our ego, right? And so the way that our brain and our nervous system and our body we have 3 parts of our nervous system. We have our ventral, which is our very healthy, happy, engaged self. We have our fight or flight, which is our sympathetic. And then we have our dorsal, which is when everything kind of shuts down and we want to isolate. So we have these 3 stages, right? And then as we are going through life and we're navigating things and we're learning about our nervous system and maybe not actively actually even being told about this because we didn't have these mindfulness movements like we have now. Pre-age 7, before you have a critical thinking brain, you have your life experiences. And from 7 years old, you start to build out this life narrative until you're about 25 because you don't have a prefrontal cortex yet. So that's where your subconscious and your critical thinking brain and all that kind of stuff starts to take place. So because of your life experiences, the heartbreak, the trauma, the poor grades in school, the divorce that you've experienced, the abandonment, the mean girls at school, the bullying, the whatever you've experienced, all of those things compound to create our personalities that we're currently navigating now. And so when we're looking at this duality and these coping mechanisms and things like that. It's really looking at what are my self-protection mechanisms keeping me safe from? And do I see the strength in myself to change that, to up-level that, to start to navigate that, to really move into whatever depths that fear is, to hold the capacity? Because the thing is, if we're so afraid of the downside, that's duality, right? If we're so afraid of the downside of things, the dark side, the shadow, we can't actually get to the capacity of the light, right? This steady state, this creation, this vision board that we want to have for our lives, if we're so afraid of that shadow. And so when we're looking at things, and the thing about healing as well, when we're healing the shadow, what can feel so scary as well is that the healing can actually be worse than the wound. And maybe you've experienced that too, where, for instance, this breakup, right? It is the breakup, that's the pain, right? But it's also opening up other wounds of family dynamics that were unhealed, wounds that I didn't know that were available, were still in my nervous system, and these worthiness spectrums and this energy of calling things in. Or, what else is another example? When we're going through, it like opens up another wound, right? Like we go through some type of event, we go through some type of shock. And that's usually where the self-development starts to tap in. It's like, I wasn't aware of that one. I wasn't aware of this piece of me that has not been healed, or this piece of me that I wasn't aware of. And so the healing actually becomes this like fear. And so instead of saying like, I don't know enough yet, or I'm not ready yet, it's like, what are we actually not ready for? And that's going to be part of the healing today, or the homework today, because it's looking at that. It's like, what is this actually protecting me from? Me saying I'm not ready, and me saying I'm not good enough, or I don't know enough, or I haven't experienced enough yet, or what if this happens, or what if this happens? All of that is protecting you from something. But all the self-help books in the world can't help you put that into action, unfortunately. And so it's learning how to feel that fear and walking with it. But first we have to identify what it actually is. What at the core is keeping you stuck in this repetitive cycle, because tell me you can't relate to that, where it's, I'm ready for love. Can you tell I'm in the midst of a breakup, and this is just the thing that's on my mind. I'm ready for love, and I'm open to it, and I'm ready for it, and all these kind of things. And then you get into a relationship, and he's too boring, he's too this, he's too that, or they're too this, they're too that, she's too this, she's too that. Like this whole narrative that we start to come up with, and we see ourselves detaching, we see ourselves being avoidant or anxious or what have you. Like all of these things start to come up, and we're like, oh, see, told you so, just to tell our brain that it's normal. And this is why we keep ourselves protected, right? So when we can look at it and be like, oh, this is that fear coming up again. And this is that old behavior pattern that I used to do to keep this fear alive in my system, because that's what my nervous system is used to. This is what's coming up. How can I look at it in a different way? Do you get what I'm saying there? And so when we're talking about all of this kind of stuff, and when it comes to your nervous system, and it comes to playing with your nervous system, it's being able to feel it, to pay attention to it, and you can practice this, right? Like when you start to journal on these things of what is the fear under the fear, like of not being ready yet, of not feeling like I need it, like I have enough, or what have you, like what is the fear under the fear? And when you start to journal on that, feel in your body where it's coming up. That's your nervous system at work. So your body will feel before your brain can even come up with a story. But what's going to happen is your body will feel, And then your brain's going to come up with a story that was similar to a life event, not the present. Does that make sense? And so when we're going through these things and starting to pay attention to them, that's how we catch it. I was just talking about this inside of Sacred Singlehood. It's the body awareness to be like, oh, like when I get anxious about relationships, I feel it here. Now I know what that is. It's this unworthiness wound. It's this, trauma bond. It's this, attachment style. It's whatever. But this is where I can feel it. So then I can work on not having that be the behavior that acts out. Right? So it's this emotional narrative. I was just going to explain the study to you, but I don't think anyone actually, there's a study, right? So he explained it's this, what's his name? Ryan and Watson. I have it written down. Ryan. Yeah. Watson and Rayner. And there was this little baby called little Albert, right? And this little Albert was like 9 months old, and he had weirdly no fears. Like this kid just like wouldn't cry. And so they kept bringing him into a room with a rat and putting the rat in front of him, and the kid would have no reaction. And so they put the rat in the room, and then they'd bang it. They bang it like they'd bang a hammer on a thing, and he'd have a reaction because he'd hear the loud noise. And so they kept repeating this scenario with him, until it was by association. So when he saw the rat, he would cry instantly without the hammer. And then he would start to see other things that were like the rat, like a furry coat or something like a little stuffed animal or something like that. And he would cry because of that. Our brains do this. Our nervous system does this. We store all these things because of the life experiences that we've had, because of the things we've been told, because of the, safety mechanisms we've built up. We have this same thing. And so in order to be able to walk in duality is to compartmentalize what is this fear and how can I walk with it? What is this uncertainty and how can I create safety? And we're going to walk through that over these 3 days, because how our bodies work in general, just we need safety, right? Like to feel we can do all the mindset work till we're blue in the face, but if we don't actually feel safe in our body, we're going to keep experiencing these self-sabotaging. We're going to have these different disordered relationships with our body. We're going to keep trying to escape with drugs and alcohol or whatever the vice is that you're trying to heal. It's really looking at these things of like, how do I get out of my own way? How do I stand in my leadership while two things are happening? And it's taking ownership over it. It's really looking at it, right? And so when you're going through stuff, when your heart's hurting, when the quote-unquote quantum crumble is happening, is there a way that you can kind of flip it on its head and look at it and go, what am I learning from this? Right? Like I remember the pivotal moment when I was 24 and life wasn't going so hot, and there was drugs and drinking and domestic violence and eating disorders and a lot of health issues and all this stuff going on. And I had been turning a blind eye for a while, about 2 years at that time. I remember sitting on the balcony of my boyfriend's apartment at the time and realizing something had to change. And if it didn't, things would stay the same. And to be able to sit in that moment and go, okay, how do I now want to tell this story in hindsight? Right? Like that's how this business was born. I didn't know going into these things. Like I wasn't like, I want to start speaking about poop, because this is when I was in the gut health days. I want to start speaking about poop. I want to be on stages around Southeast Asia. I want to be on magazines where I am literally the poop queen, and I want to do XYZ and have all this and speak here and create this and do the brand deals and create, like that was not the plan. If you would have told me that, I probably wouldn't have started. The plan was heal myself. The plan was get off that balcony. The plan was understand nutrition so it wasn't so fucking scary and I could actually heal my relationship to it. from there, it just started to stem, because from there I started to learn my self-respect, my confidence. I learned how to eat in a way that felt like I was honoring myself, and that upped the ante in my self-respect field, and was able to get off that relationship, leave that relationship. And then from all of that, it led me to trauma and understanding these concepts, because I didn't realize what I was doing at the time. I didn't realize the steps I was taking in the route that I had taken, which seemed very different to the way everyone else was doing it, was actually because I needed to regulate my nervous system more than the average person, more than other entrepreneurs, I guess. But if you can look at the things that you're going through and ask, what is this trying to show me right now? What can this teach me? What can I learn from this? If I'm going to write a book, I remember this was my thing because I wanted to have a TED Talk. I was like, if I'm going to have a TED Talk one day, how can I tell this story in hindsight? How do I want this moment of my life to be? And I use that for everything now, even this heartbreak. I literally messaged my best friend after, and I was like, I am making 7 figures off this heartbreak. You better believe. Like, it was like one of these portals of activation. But if we can really look at our life as that, as a series of events that are always meant for us, even when they hurt, even when we can't make sense of it, what lesson can we learn, and what can we take away from it? And then from there, can we start to do work so we can actually release it? Because when we're in moments of heartbreak and trauma and illness and all this kind of thing, our body, like the way trauma works, it's not, yes, it's events. Yes, those are traumatic events. But the way trauma works is that it's stored in our body. It's just the way our body reacts to an event. It's fascinating. So even though I have been through big T trauma in various degrees, there are people that can have the same body reactions. Like when I was in gut health, right? Like I would always ask, when did this start? And a lot of it's like, oh, I was in a car accident here, or I was in a university here, or I started studying for university here and having all these jobs and doing all this kind of stuff. And it's like, oh, your body is just stuck in this fight or flight state, and it's locked that in. That's trauma. Yes, there's these events, but we have this weird notion to trauma and what it all means, but you can interchange that with states of arousal. But when we're stuck in these states of arousal, we get in our own way all the time, because we build up these self-protection mechanisms, because that's our comfort zone. Our comfort zone, if you've been through trauma and you're used to, those high achieving kind of things and all that kind of stuff, our body gets used to these elevated cortisol levels. So when we actually step into something that could be peaceful, that could be playful, that could be loving, that could be safe, our body is actually going to respond with, ah, and spaz out and cut the cord and, want to create chaos. And this is how we get stuck in the self-protection, self-sabotage cycle. Is that making more sense for y'all? For me, understanding how the body works and why we do the things we do is always the way to really get through things. Because otherwise we're just throwing stuff at a wall and we don't understand. To actually grasp how to walk with duality, we also have to understand how our nervous system works, how we work, how to value that and understand, it's not that you're broken, it's not that you lack discipline, it's not that you're not ready, it's not that you don't know enough. It's that you don't know your body enough yet. You haven't caught the feeling before the behavior. And that, my friend, is fixable. But it's got to be put into practice. The thing that we do in Unbreakably Bold and the programs that I do is we expand the nervous system so that we can do bold things, so we can accumulate more wealth, so we can create the businesses, so we can have the best health, so we can go date and feel comfortable and confident in these things and really disintegrate these habits that keep us safe. But it's practice, because a lot of times, and I did this too, we go into things and we go all in. These quick fix mentalities, these, 30-day cleanses, these, biohacking things that it's just let me go all in 30 days, all this kind of stuff. And then we wonder why we jump back. Like our body is just like, ugh. You know, we have the big peaks in our business and yet we lose all the money. We have that moment of 30 days in our health and then all of a sudden we're back to square one. We have the relationship that we want and all of a sudden it's chaos after the first 3 months are over. Our nervous system has yet to expand to hold that. And so it takes practice and it takes awareness. And the first thing to look at is, okay, so what is this? What's under this fear? What's under this self-protection thing that I keep doing that makes me feel like I'm not good enough yet, or I don't know enough yet, or I'm not ready yet? What's actually underneath that? What's the fear? Because you fucking are. You have lived this many moon cycles to accumulate the knowledge that you have, to have the life experiences that you have. God doesn't fuck things up. He is here to tell you and show you the life lessons that you're meant to have so that you can go on to your greater purpose. Is that something you truly believe? Whether it's God, universe, source, I know some people get triggered with that word, but interchangeable with the word nowadays. But do you truly believe that the universe messes things up? Or does the universe only throw us sticky pickles when we're not going down the path we're meant to be going? And so when we can look at our life and be like, oh, like that was just a course correction. What can I learn? How can I tell this story in hindsight? And how can I now regulate my nervous system? Because I see myself continually pushing back on that line. What's going on here? And how can I get to the line that I see is meant for me? You know what I mean? And that's the hard part. Right? Like that's the part where Unbreakably Bold comes into play. And that's the part where it goes more than I am listening to podcasts and going to free masterclasses. Like that is where we have to start to actually take action. And it's so different than what you see in the traditional talk therapy or tapping or yoga or mantras or things like that, which are all fine. I love them all. But the thing about trauma and nervous system work and walking with and being able to walk in duality is that we're not going into the past necessarily. Yes, we're looking at the fears and diving what's underneath that, but we're not like going into your past and assessing how everything is, all that stuff. We're looking at what gets you safe in this present moment. What makes you safe in this present moment, to pay attention to how your body responds to fear, to sounds, to smells, like that rat in the little Albert. There are certain things that happen when people say things or you smell things or, you know, all these kind of things that then get in our way. But when we can understand these and look at these and make peace with them, we come up with a game plan on how to move with them. And it's not to say it's perfect and it never happens again and we are totally fine. Like, humans get triggered. But as Mark Groves says, when you get triggered, get curious. And that's how we learn to start walking with duality. That's like step one. Step one of many is what is under that fear. What is this when I say I am not ready yet, or I don't know enough yet, and I can't go on that date, I can't ask for that promotion, I can't start that business, I can't get off low FODMAP diet, I can't release these kind of things, because what's underneath that is where things actually start to change. The need for control, the need to be seen, the need to be validated, the need for worthiness, the need to belong, the need for significance, the need for love and connection. Like, there's so much more underneath that, when addressed, creates limitless potential. And you create that moment. There is no perfect moment in the world that comes through and is like, this is it. This is what we do. You have entered the arena. This is your welcome mat. Here's the red carpet. There you go. Like, never in our life has that been it. And you can think of examples of this in your life when you're like looking at it and you're like, wow, that's like when my chapter 1 started, like when I claimed this or when this happened and when I started to move that. Like it's that same notion for your chapter 2. You just have to claim it. Because we live so many experiences. Like I said, we built up our repertoire of our subconscious. We are 95% of our subconscious programming. Every cell in our body, the memories that we have, that's 95% of us. That's why it's so hard to create habits and to change our personality traits and to become the people that we want to be. But it's doable when we use the right part of our brain. When we bring this understanding to it and we claim it to be as such. Because there is no perfect time. There is no 100% certain. There is no whatever. And because we've had these life experiences, it's hard to move out of them because that's our comfort zone. And so tomorrow, that's what we're going to be talking more on, is moving out of our comfort zone of, the imposter syndrome of, how do we actually regulate and do these kind of things so we can move past it and all that stuff. Because it's not that you're not ready yet. It's just we haven't gotten to the root cause. We haven't gotten to that moment of I'm claiming this is the time that I'm changing this stuff and I'm putting this into action. Because we can claim stuff too. Like I did this for years. I claim things that I'm changing my life and I'm doing these things. But as soon as like something else, like a pin dropped, I'm like back to acting out my trauma responses and acting out of, reaction instead of response, which again, we're going to talk about that. But that's the nervous system and all that interesting things. So I want you to know, and for the homework for today, what I really want you to dive into is that deep fear, that fear of not being there yet. Not being there yet, not being whatever enough, fill in the blank, however you're feeling in that part of the duality mix that led you to enrolling in this masterclass. What's underneath that? Spend time today journaling that. I know I talked about this with Hillary, but it was like, continue to pull out the why. Why do I not feel good enough? But why? But why? But why? Like be that 7-year-old self to yourself. But why? What's underneath that? What's going on here? So that we can start to actually move around that and start to build up safety in our nervous system, because we can't build up safety if we don't know what it is, right? And so that's going to be your homework. I want you to share that I'm going to put a little homework thread in the guide section here. And so you're going to put your answers there. That's step 1 of the homework. And step 2 is to share some type of thing on your Instagram and tag me in it, healing, at it's Laura Patricia Martin, and healing to happy, TO happy. Share that on your stories, and that will enter you into the draw. And there's going to be 2 more homework assignment things to enter in so that you can get a lunch on me. We can have a nice little lunchy lunch to celebrate this, to celebrate yourself. If you are complete for the day, thank you for being here. I'm going to move into talking about Unbreakably Bold, which is our fucking amazing next group program. It is next level. It is pivotal. It is for the woman that has been experiencing these things of trauma and, lack of self-work and bitterness and, trapness, and is looking to move through that and is looking to release that from her body so she can show up confidently, so she can show up boldly. And so I'm going to jump into talking about that. But I will see you tomorrow for talking about imposter syndrome and overcoming that and really regulating your nervous system around that so that we can have this full expansion. And, showing up for day 1 is the easy one. If you've been in my master classes, you guys know it just keeps getting way more fun throughout it and it gets deeper and deeper. So I hope to see you for day 2. And I love you. So, Unbreakably Bold it's funny because you guys have probably seen me post about this one time months ago, and I posted one photo of the branding and I was like, and then I was like, it doesn't feel right. It didn't feel like it landed. And so through this evolution of my life and my brand and the things that we've been moving into, it's just been landing more and more of what this is. And it's going to be an 8-week journey. I think I said 3 months earlier. It's 8 weeks. Group program by application only for the woman that is ready to claim her boldness to the world, that is ready to lead her life boldly so that she can learn how to regulate her nervous system so that she can show up confidently, so she can radiate this magnetism. I'm going to literally be showing you the play-by-play on how this is, of how I walk through my own limiting beliefs. I'm going to show you my journals and things like that. I'm going to show you how I created the companies in the midst of the chaos, how I'm able to use my voice and ask for these things. Like, these are the common things that I've seen so many women in my world get lost behind, right? Especially when it comes to like health hiccups and things like that. Like, we get so lost chasing the wrong things and thinking, oh, if I cerebrally get all this stuff, then my body will heal myself. Like, if I learn enough about gut health, if I learn enough about relationships, if I learn enough about, what have you, it'll be business, it'll be good. But then we see that this isn't actually succeeding. We see that we keep trying these things and it comes up with, the hustle culture, or it comes up with like taking a hit to our confidence or our understanding of self and consistency and navigating the in-between and like all the things that get us in our way. What I'm going to be walking you through is, in these 8 weeks, it's going to be 1 call a week. Right? You're going to have lifetime access to this. You're going to have homework. You're going to be connecting with other women. You're going to be co-regulating. You're going to be understanding this. So ultimately, you have the tools that no matter what you go through in life, you feel confident. You feel like you got your back, especially after trauma and getting stuck inside these trauma loops. How do we use the science in the soul? Like I said, this is not like talk therapy. This is not like tapping. This is not like womb healing and things like that. Like, this is actual science. Like, to be able to walk through what your body is trying to communicate with you so that you can disassociate from that pain and start to open up this magnetism. Because our life is just a reflection of what our nervous system is doing. So if you feel like plates are spinning so fast and life is like this and things are like that, it's because that's a match of what your nervous system is. And so to get out of that trauma cycle, we have to do some deeper work. We have to come up with the strategies. We have to come up with the tools so that you can ultimately succeed with that. So for this masterclass, I'm going to put it on pre-launch. It's going to be $1,500. Usually it is $2,222. It is by application only. So what that means is, because it is a group program, I want to make sure you get the best benefit. I want to make sure the women in the group get the best benefit, making sure that everyone in there has the benefits. So I'm going to put this in here, and it's by application. So you can come in, fill the application out. Me or my team will reach out to you and set up a phone call so you and I can have a chat and see if that's a good fit for you, or one-to-one's a better fit, or maybe a program, whatever it is. But I will drop that in here, and I'll be talking more about this throughout this masterclass. But this is... I struggle to find words because I can't quite grasp the magnitude of how I feel this is in my body, where it makes so much sense as to why it didn't land before and why I wasn't so like gung-ho about it. Now it's like, wow, this is like the signature thing that we're going to be building, and to be in this moment of transition, of that in-between, and to be able to share with you how I've been keeping the safety in my body and how I've overcome trauma and eating disorders and body dysmorphia and, imposter syndrome and all that kind of stuff is really magical. So I'm going to put that link there. I'm going to share it for you, and I will see you tomorrow, my friends. I love you so freaking much. Tomorrow's going to be banging. It is all about imposter syndrome. It is about showing up boldly. It is about relationships and conscious communication. Like, there's so much to this whole where we got our imposter syndrome and how it integrated into our body and how we can actually start to release it. So it's a big conversation. So I'm excited to see you there. I'm excited to take one of you guys to lunch virtually, just kind of Venmo you, but I'm excited for that. So I will see you tomorrow. I love you. You're beautiful. And I'll see you somewhere on the internet. Bye.